Pressure testing two-stroke engines. The two-stroke motorcycle engine depends on having an airtight crankcase and combustion chamber for proper operation. Any leakage of outside air into the engine or loss of fuel-air mixture out of the engine in these areas can alter the fuel-air mixture provided by the carburetor and will therefore affect engine performance and reliability. It isn't too difficult to see what an air leak could do to the properly carbureted fuel-air mixture. The influx of outside air or loss of fuel-air mixture would cause an excessively lean condition that would result in increased engine temperature, loss of power, and almost certain engine damage. Common types of two-stroke failure, such as hold and melted pistons and engine seizure, are usually the direct result of crankcase or combustion chamber air leaks in cases where the lubrication system was functioning properly. Pressure testing the engine at first sign of leanness, overheating, or loss of power could prevent this type of damage. Yamaha has made available a crankcase pressure testing kit which will test any two-stroke engine for air leaks. The kit consists of a double-action hand pump which will pressurize or create a vacuum within the crankcase, a gauge to measure the pressure or vacuum, and an assortment of plugs to seal the intake and exhaust ports on 1974 Yamaha two-stroke motorcycles and some older Yamaha models. Inlet and exhaust plugs can be easily made for any other brand of two-stroke engine. Pressure testing an engine is a relatively easy task. Begin by removing the carburetor from the engine. Next, remove the exhaust pipe. On Enduro or MX models, also remove the exhaust pipe flange from the cylinder. Select the proper exhaust plug from the kit and install it between the cylinder and exhaust pipe flange. Make certain that the cylinder and flange sealing areas are clean and smooth so that a good seal is made. Apply some grease on the sealing areas for a better seal. Place the proper inlet fitting on the carburetor manifold and fasten it with the carburetor mounting bolt. To conduct the pressure test, connect the rubber hose from the shutoff valve to the fitting marked P on the end of the pump. Connect the remaining rubber hose from the pressure gauge to the fitting on the engine inlet plug. Open the valve and operate the pump until the crankcase is pressurized to 8 psi. Hold the pressure at this level and close the shutoff valve. Watch the second hand on a clock and the pressure gauge. Record the pressure loss during each minute and determine the leakage rate per minute. For example, the pressure in this engine decreased from 8 psi to 6 psi in the first minute, which is a leakage rate of 2 psi per minute. The second minute the pressure decreased from 6 psi to 4 psi, which is also a leakage rate of 2 psi per minute. As a general guideline, the maximum leakage rate should not exceed 1 psi per minute. Some engines will leak down to 6 or 7 psi rather quickly after being pressurized. This is normal as long as leakage does not exceed 1 psi per minute below 6 psi. Air leaks in the crankcase or intake manifold will cause a lean mixture and eventually seizure. The arrow points to the most common areas of leakage in these areas. Some of these are the intake manifold, the base gasket, and between the case halves. In addition, the crank seals may be faulty. Air leaks in the combustion chamber will cause overheating and poor performance. The two most common areas for leaks here are the spark plug gasket and the head gasket. Locating the leak can sometimes be difficult. Listen for the sound of escaping air. Apply a soap and water solution to the suspected area and watch for air bubbles. Seals and gaskets will sometimes leak in one direction but not the other. For this reason, the engine should be subjected to both the pressure and vacuum test. Simply switch the hose on the pump from the fitting marked P to the fitting marked V. Open the valve and operate the pump until the crankcase reaches a vacuum of 6 inches. Hold the pressure at this level and close the shutoff valve. Watch the second hand on a clock and the vacuum gauge. Note the leakage rate as before. The maximum leakage rate should not exceed 1 inch of vacuum per minute. To determine the area that is leaking, apply a few drops of light oil on the suspected area. The oil will be sucked through the point of leakage into the engine. Do not use a soap and water solution to find leaks when conducting the vacuum test. When pressure testing a twin-cylinder engine, the procedure is the same except both exhaust ports must be plugged, and this tapered rubber plug must be installed in the left carburetor manifold. This plug is held in place by the carburetor mounting clamp. 1969 and newer Yamaha twins have an aluminum labyrinth crank center seal. This seal only operates when the engine is running. For this reason, both cylinders must be sealed and tested at one time. Labyrinth seals are not subject to wear under normal conditions and can be assumed to be functioning properly. Once the area of leakage has been determined, it's simply a matter of correcting the problem. The following procedures show how to eliminate the most common types of crankcase leaks. If the leak is between the crankshaft and seal, the seal must be replaced. It is good practice to check the crank for alignment and the crank bearings for wear at this time, or the new seal may leak also. If the leak is between the crankcase and the seal, replace the seal using Celastic sealant around its outside diameter. If the leak is at the crankcase mating surfaces, disassemble the cases and check each case half on a surface plate. Resurface the case halves as necessary using number 600 wet sandpaper on a surface plate. Reassemble the cases using Yamaha Bond number 5 or Celastic sealant. A leak between the cylinder and head can also be remedied by resurfacing the head and cylinder surfaces using number 600 sandpaper on a surface plate. Install a new head gasket and coat both sides with a light film of grease. This light film of lubricant will allow the gasket to position itself properly when the head is torqued. Leakage at the base gasket requires replacement of the gasket. Be sure to clean the sealing surfaces of all pieces of old gasket and foreign material. Use Celastic sealant on both sides of the new gasket. The crankcase pressure testing kit is an important tool for two-stroke troubleshooting, but it is not a cure-all for every machine that suffers from overheating, poor performance, or piston seizure. These problems may sometimes be the result of a malfunction in the ignition, carburation, exhaust, or lubrication systems. A successful mechanic will diagnose the problem by a process of elimination by conducting basic tests of the various systems. The crankcase pressure tester is one of the necessary tools required for two-stroke engine troubleshooting.